Hi Al, this is Bill from Pocono Shooting. Thanks for sending me that hybrid Kydex leather holster to review. This video that you're seeing over here is not a public video. I'm sending you a private link, so nobody can see it unless I specifically send them this link. And I'm treating this kind of like a prototype or a product that's still in development. So I'm not gonna publicly review this holster until you tell me that this is the final product that you want to put out there for review. Okay, so because I'm not interested in hurting anybody. I'm more interested in the development of good products that I can recommend to my customers. About this summer, I had about 10,000 people that I trained. So I had a busy year. In general, I supply most of the equipment to my customers. They're usually beginners, people have never shot guns before. So a lot of times they end up buying the stuff that I trained them on. So with regards to this holster, the problem that it has is retention. Okay, if you look at the holster here, right, as it sits in there, you can see how if I just push here with my finger, you can see how easily that comes out. Okay, so this is gonna very easily come out, especially with the type of tactical training that I do with people, where I kind of have them like sometimes crawling under a table, coming out and shooting and stuff like that. This is going to catch on stuff and is going to come out. And then what happens is when this comes out of the holster, once it lifts out, the trigger then becomes exposed. So what's going to happen is, as it lifts out, people are going to try to push it back in, and then if a piece of clothing, right, because especially now in the wintertime, people tend to wear a lot of clothes, if a piece of fabric or something gets caught up in there between the holster and the trigger, it's going to set the gun off. So that's really important. The holster has to retain the gun. Back here is the holster that I normally carry, and you can see how when I push on it with my finger, that's not easily coming out. And in fact, I got to kind of yank on it. You can see how it lifts my belt up a little bit as I come out, as compared to this holster. You can see how that comes out with almost no effort. So let's take this holster off and take a closer look at it, and try to think of ways that we can improve this. I'm going to take off this holster over here. Alright, so this is the holster that I had on now. Now this is an inside the waistband holster. So the thing with this is that even though there's some retention there, because it's inside the waistband, right? It's inside my belt. When I tighten my belt up, it squeezes this a little bit tighter. So there's a button, there's a screw over here with a piece of rubber in between that allows you to tighten this or loosen it up to your preference. So that keeps the holster in place. Now, with this holster here that I have, for example, for this Glock, because this is an outside the waistband holster and I'm not tightening my belt on it, this has to be a little bit tighter because I don't have that extra tension of my belt over it. Let's put this belt back on. Okay, so this is an outside the waistband holster, like the one that you sent me. And also this has a button over here that not button, a screw that you can tighten. And you can see how, okay, it doesn't come up easily. I have to pull it up. Now, okay, so there's a little bit more tension there. It's not going to come out if I just push on it like that. Okay, so that's an important consideration. Now, one of the things that I also noticed, and part of the reason why we're having a retention problem with your product here, is if you notice this kind of sits a little bit lower. Okay. By the way, there is a issue that I do have with this holster from Polcraft. When they cut this, they should have, this piece of plastic should have came up here and covered the rear sights, because that corner over there always kind of digs into me. Not if I'm standing, but if I'm sitting in the car, which is also really important. A lot of people spend a lot of time in their cars, so the holster has to be something that you can sit in the car seat with, because the car seat's different than the office seat. The car seat kind of tends to wrap around the body a little bit more, so that's an important consideration. But yeah, that's an imperfection in this Polcraft design. They should have covered the rear sight. But anyway, what I want to show you is, if you see how this kind of sits a little bit deeper. Okay, let me pull this out. When I put it into your holster, you can see how yours sits higher. All right, so by it sitting higher, there's more of a chance that, basically it's got less stuff holding onto it. So if I could recommend, and obviously you can't hit the magazine release. Let me see how this covers that. All right, so yeah, so this does go over the magazine release. It just has a cutout so that it does not hit the button. Now I can understand the issue with the leather, because the leather, unlike the plastic, it's not going to be form fitted. You have to actually maybe cut a little groove over here. So I think the leather needs to come up a little bit higher on this side, and maybe a little bit more on this side. But that's the issue. We got to get more retention out of your holster in order for it to be safe. Let me put the holster back on. And the way I am putting this on, just so that I can keep it as stable as possible, I'm actually putting it through one loop, then running it through the belt loop, and then running that through the other hole here. So I'm doing everything I can to keep this holster from moving. I'm trying to keep it as stable as possible. Let's get this back in here. So again, yeah, that's the problem. It just comes out too easy. Let's take a closer look at this. So part of the issue that you're running into with having leather on one side is with this design over here, you got the plastic cut out on both sides for one thing. So it's being squeezed from both sides. Plastic coming in over there, plastic going in over there, and then you have that adjustment screw right underneath here. With the hybrid design, what's happening is the plastic is only catching it on one side, okay? So there's nothing on the other side over here. So right away, you're kind of at a disadvantage, because you only have one side to catch, because this is the retention part. Retention part is this piece right over here, right? Grabbing the trigger guard right over here. So with the fully Kydex holsters, it's being caught on one side. With your design, it's only being caught on I'm sorry, with the other design, it's being caught on both sides. With your design, it's only being caught on one side. We might be able to improve this by maybe putting a tightening screw right over here in this spot. That would tighten this up a little bit. I'm trying to do this with my finger. It does tighten it up. If I push down with my thumb over here and I squeeze it, it definitely gives me a little bit more tightness. I don't know if that's going to quite fix the problem. It improves it. Again, I think we also need to bring this up a little bit higher, maybe bring this side up a little bit. I'm not sure, but anyway, that's my initial impression with this holster. It has a retention problem that needs to be addressed in order for it to be safe, because it's dangerous and embarrassing, especially if you're like out in public in a store, and as you're moving around doing some grocery shopping, trying to get to the bottom shelf, and then like your gun falls out of your holster. So I hope this is useful to you, and like I said, I'm kind of treating this like a work in process. Think about the things I told you. Give me, if you want me to try anything, I'll be happy to, as far as with this holster that I have here. But Like I said, I'm not publishing this video. This is an internal video between us. Talk to you soon.